Hey, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to talk about my reading stats for quarter 4 of 2024 and also do sort of a goal and stat recap for the whole year. So let's dive in. All right, so we're gonna start with my quarter 4 stats. Quarter 4 was a little bit slower. I read 13 books in October, November, December. Which totaled 4,178 pages, which is funny because one book alone that I read was over 1,000 pages, so that kind of tells you why things were a little slower. I read 5 print books, 2 ebooks, and 6 audiobooks. So again, the audiobooks were king this quarter. And I did not have any rereads the entire year, as a matter of fact, not only this quarter, but the entire year I had no rereads. And I only had one DNF. I can't remember what that was. Oh, it was The Wicked Sister by Karen Dean. Yeah, DNF'd that in October. So as far as genre breakdowns go, it was a little interesting, but not super surprising. So my most read genre this quarter was historical fiction. I read 3 historical fiction books, which doesn't surprise me much because I tend to like historical fiction in the fall and winter months. So that makes sense. Followed by 2 horror books. I also read 2 sci-fi books, which is not like me at all. 2 classics, 2 nonfiction books, 1 romance, and 1 mystery, which that's interesting because usually mysteries and thrillers are up there, but only having 1 for the whole quarter is kind of weird for me. So now I'm going to go over my goals and I'm going to kind of talk about them as a whole for the entire year because it's just easier that way. Otherwise it gets really repetitive. So my first big goal for 2024 was to read 60 books and I ended up reading 61. So I barely made that goal, but I am still okay with it because honestly 2024 was a tough year for me in a lot of different ways, and reading just was not a priority for big chunks of it, and that's okay. It was just a very weird year, and my reading reflects that. So I'm happy that I made my goal, but like I just barely did. As far as the Buzzword Reading Challenge goes, I completed it. I did all 12 challenges, 1 a month. Yeah, I did it. Woohoo! I also am happy to say that I completed my Revisit Remix, which was, I had 7 books on that list. There were, though, 1 or 2 DNFs, I think. I have to look and see. I know I didn't actually read them all because, like, I know for sure one of them for sure was a DNF. I DNF'd We Were the Mulvaneys. Yes, that was the only one. I otherwise read all of them. So I was pretty happy with that because, you know, some of the books were bigger. I did, finish the last one in December. It was like literally one of the last books I read in the year, but hey, I completed it. I'm happy. And then I had this goal to get all of my physical TBR onto my little 3-tiered cart that I have here in my home library, and I did that. I'm so happy that I was able to downsize the physical TBR to fit on that cart because I really wanted there to be more room on my bookshelves for books I have read to sort of showcase what I've read. And it was just getting a little out of control that I had at one point 3 shelves were unread books, and I really wanted to downsize, and I did a pretty good job with that. And that's actually something I'm going to keep striving for going forward, is to keep all of my unread books on the cart so that I have room on my shelves for books I've read. My big book for 2024 was Under the Dome by Stephen King, and I completed it. It was the last book I read. I literally finished it on New Year's Eve, but I did it. I read it. It was over 1,000 pages. It wasn't my favorite Stephen King book, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't his worst. I think I gave it a 3.75, so, it was all right. I'm just glad that I read my big book for the year. Okay, then the next 2 challenges were the ones that I didn't do so great on. The first one is I had this goal to read 1 Kindle book a month because it wasn't last year, the year before, I was starting to feel like I was neglecting my Kindle. I kept buying books at, you know, discounted prices, and then I just would forget that they were there. And so I wanted it to be kind of a priority to make sure I was reading books off my Kindle. And last year I did great. I read a book a month off of my Kindle. I was killing it. But then in 2024, I only read 8. I sort of gave up on that goal because I had a couple of books that I was reading on there that I DNF'd that were longer, and I put a lot of time in and ended up DNFing. The books themselves were just taking me a long time, and I was just feeling like it was bogging me down. So I just sort of gave up and only ended up reading 8 Kindle books for the year. And that's a goal that I decided not to take into 2025 because I was looking through my Kindle, and right now I only have 10 books on my Kindle that I haven't read. And I would rather just read those when I want to and not like force myself to read one of those 10 books every month. Because I feel like now my Kindle, it's at a, you know, manageable level. I don't feel like it's out of control, and I don't know what's on there. I've done a pretty good job keeping track of what's there, and so I decided not to continue with that goal. But yeah, that is one that I failed on in 2024. My other failure was my Stephen King goal. This is a goal that I make every year, and I always somehow manage to do it, but I literally do it at the very, very end of the year. I come through and I finish like the 5th book. And I didn't do that this year. I only read 4. So I'm not really mad at myself because I read Under the Dome, which is the equivalent of like 2 books really, because it's so big. And now I'm at a point where this year I'm planning to read Stephen King to 0. So even though I only read 4 Stephen King books in 2024, I didn't meet my goal to read 5. I still have gotten it now to the point where I'm going to read to 0 this year. So it's okay. I'm not super mad about it. The books I did read were pretty good. One of them was a 5-star, and it ended up being one of my favorite books of the year. So overall it wasn't bad, but yeah, I didn't complete the goal. And then my last goal was to read 3 classics, and I did. I read 3. I read The Little Prince, Emma, and what was the last one? Oh, Things Fall Apart. And all of those, I think all of them were for my 100 Epic Reads project. So thank you, 100 Epic Reads poster behind me, because I probably wouldn't have read any classics if it wasn't for that project. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick rundown of some final stats for my 2024 reading year. I had a list of favorites, and I made a whole separate video talking about my favorite books of the year, and I will link it so that you can check it out if you want to, because I'm not going to talk about them here because that would have made this video way too long. So but quickly, just want to go over my stats. So for 2024, I ended up reading, like I said, 61 books. Barely made my goal, but I made it, and that's all that counts. Pages read, I read 21,054 pages, which I think is pretty good. It seems like a lot. I don't know. My most read genre, despite feeling like I didn't read a lot of it this year, it was still horror and mystery thriller. They tied. I don't remember the exact numbers, but those were my most read genres. Though, like I said, throughout the year, I felt like, wow, I'm like not reading any horror this year, but it still ended up coming out on top. I read 25 print books. I read 8 ebooks, like I mentioned when I talked about my Kindle goal. And then I listened to 28 audiobooks. And I think this is the first year ever that audiobooks trumped print books. And I mean, it wasn't by much, but still, I think that audiobooks really saved me this year. And I think even continuing into this year, they're gonna really help me get some reading done because, you know, I have a 30-minute commute to work, you know, to and from, 30 minutes each way. And I go into the office 3 days a week. So typically that's what I do on my commute is I listen to my audiobook. And so it's going to help me out, I think, this year with, even though being a little more busy in terms of going back to work, I think that because I have that commute, I'm going to still be reading and it should be great. Okay, my average rating was a 3.64, which isn't awesome. I would really like that number to be a little higher. I always tell myself, oh, as long as it's above a 3.5, that's probably okay. but I would really like it to be higher in 2025. I only had nine 5-star reads in 2024, and I would really like to have more 5-star reads. I really want to just enjoy what I'm reading and not feel so middle of the road about things. So hopefully in 2025, my average rating will be a little bit higher. And then lastly, the number of books hauled. I hauled 17 books total in 2024. That is a very low number. And I think it's because I never filmed a book haul. This entire year, I didn't film a book haul, and it's because I was buying books as they were coming out, if they were new releases, and I was pretty much reading them right away. So I didn't really see the need to film a book haul. And now I'm looking and I'm like, well, yeah, I only hauled 17 books in the whole year. That's usually like what you would have in one book haul. So I think that's kind of good that I was being a little more selective about what I was purchasing, and I was being more conscious of the TBR, physical TBR. And I think that really helped me get my TBR down because I wasn't constantly bringing books in. And I would really like to kind of keep that going too. Now don't get me wrong, if there's a really good sale going on somewhere, or I hit up a library sale, because that's where I really tend to like get the big book hauls going, is when I go to a library sale, then that's fine. I'm not going to be mad at myself if I haul more books in 2025. But I was actually kind of impressed with that number and happy with that number. I feel like I was reading books as I was purchasing them, and they weren't just staring at me from the unread TBR cart. So overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that stat. Okay guys, so that's it. Those are my Q4 stats and my sort of goal recap for 2024. Please let me know down below how your 2024 goals went. What's the goal that you made for yourself that you're the most proud of? Because I would love to know that. And yeah, I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you had a good 2024 and that 2025 is even better. And I will chat with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.